Welcome to the podcast, where street smart, business smart, all kinds of smart people share their insights into the world of marketing, career journeys, and personal growth. So sit back and prepare to get enlightened with your host, Adam Posner.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast, where I bring you the best and brightest from the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity to drive your career forward. Tribe, my guest today, Nick Hayden, has something really special. It's actually two things called drive and tenacity in spades. And I met Nick through our mutual connection, another superpower connector, Mr. Cool Kel himself, Kelvin Joseph. And from our first conversation, I knew that this guy, Nick, was onto something big. Nick Hayden is a sports business entrepreneur and CEO and co-founder of Sports Biz Group, a full-service creative and sports entertainment agency here in New York City. And what they do is they leverage the influence of sports and entertainment through networking, collaboration, and immersive events. And we'll certainly dig into that in a little bit. And his work experience extends to sports, tech, VC, and hospitality. And Nick is passionate about helping others reach new levels of success within the sports business and entrepreneurship. And his mission, experience the world through epic activities with amazing people. I love it. Nick Hayden, finally, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you so much, Adam. That was a humbling introduction. Thank you.
Dude, I mean it, man. Ever since I met you, like I see something, and I'm not sure exactly how old you are, but I see so much in you. And I talk about this to your face. I tell you this all the time. I'm like, you have it, man. You have something that not many folks at your age where you are in life have it yet. And that is going to propel you incrementally, incredibly, all the way through. So why don't, let's bring my tribe up to speed here. I want to really get into two things: your passion of sports and your passion of business, how we bring that all together. So let's talk about college. We're not going to go back to, your Little League days, but was sports a passion? Where did this real passion for sports come from?
Yeah, it's I grew up playing sports. I think that's where a lot of people's passion comes from. Played soccer, played lacrosse, been to all the games. I'm a big Ravens fan. They're doing really well right now. So it's like
last night.
Cross the Jets.
It was a PAL game.
Yeah, I felt bad for them. But yeah, so it kind of all started from just I think that's where a lot of people from actually participating in sports. But then as I developed and really got into business kind of at a younger age, I tried to leverage my passion for sports through business. So, it kind of goes hand in hand, where it's obviously grew up playing, but then when I realized I'm not going to play, national, soccer for the national team, kind of shifted my energy and drive to be more in business side of things. And then more recently, and the past 5 years, really trying to harness sports through my passion for business. So.
I absolutely love it. I just want to rewind for a minute because I think it's interesting to talk about kind of school to career journeys. Where did you go to college?
So I went to University of South Carolina and studied sports management there, and did undergrad in business or minor in business. But yeah, South Carolina is one of the top schools for their sports management program. They were great resources for me and kind of supported me as an entrepreneur. So from various ways, where I worked at the basketball arena when I was there, and then worked the Masters golf tournament. They helped set that up for the university. And then I was also so I was the president of the Entrepreneurship Club, which was a nonprofit, and we put on events and we brought in entrepreneurs. And we did, help people build apps. But really where kind of the sports passion was, I tried to start a travel agency for sports fans when I was about a sophomore there, and try to plan tickets, travel, lodging for sports fans. Try to target college students, whether they're going to away games or wealthier alumni, going to bowl games, or just high-end sporting events. So took a few swings at that, and then the university actually let me do that as my internship. So I was able to.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What internships did you have in school that were sports related? So let's talk a little bit about the internships, how you leveraged it.
Yeah. So I've had some internships where I was doing ticket sales for, a lacrosse team a few years ago. That was all right. Worked at Four Seasons hotels as well. But Yeah, the internships, I kind of like a strong opinion about this is, especially for like university students, sometimes you have to pay, you're getting enrolled and you have to get school credit for an internship.
Yep.
And it's a great learning experience. And like where I was at is like I learned a lot really quickly, and I was trying to like I didn't want to go do an unpaid internship and pay the university to do an unpaid internship. So I was able to convince them to let me do my own business, and I finished like a semester early, and then do my business as my final internship.
Yeah,
So,
no, it's interesting. I talk to a lot of young people too, and I tell them the value of the internship, and I like to say this: it's almost more important when you have an internship to find out what you do not like.
Yes. Yeah.
Elements that you do not like versus what you do like, because that'll help you when you pivot into your first career job. So tell me something about that internship that you actually did not like, and you said, you know what, when it's my time to enter the workforce, something I don't want to be doing. It could be like part of the job function, types of elements of the role that you don't like, or industries that you don't like. But what did you learn that you did not like?
Yeah. Well, I kind of learned it's more not necessarily what I didn't like. I'm more of like a utility player, so I like all sides of business, and it's like sometimes it can be difficult for me to like, with ADD and just like, all right, I'm doing too much, but I kind of like the whole business, so sales, operations, marketing, athlete relations. So when I was doing an internship, I really liked doing that, but it was more certain cultures or certain organizations I didn't really like to be around. So it was more kind of like seeing what types of cultures that businesses are creating, and like trying to just like assess that quickly, and then whether it's a good fit like from a culture standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just testing out things where it's like there's various things I didn't like. I didn't like working with people that had like a poor attitude, or I was really big into ticket sales. So I was like an unpaid intern selling tickets, but I was getting like discouraged by people that are higher up because I was kind of bringing more revenue, but I was just doing it for fun as like cool. I like selling. So it was almost like kind of discouraging where, a lot of times in sports, it's all tenure. So, it could just be bad culture fits a lot of times.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you learned some big lessons. So you come out of school. Did you go right into the workforce, a traditional job? What did you do right when you graduated? What was that move?
Yeah. So, I kind of looking back on, I'm glad I did it. But yeah, so I started a company called Fan Plan, which was the travel agency. By no means, it was not in a position to take that full time. So I had that kind of like internship spring semester to do that and see if it would work out. And then I was still like passionate about it. I thought we could make a pivot to make it actually turn out to be like a profitable business. So right out of the bat, I tried to pursue that in the summertime. It didn't really work out. I was staying in South Carolina, and then at that point, it wasn't working out. So I decided to move up here to New York and did some seasonal jobs with like a sports betting company, and then doing recruiting and doing some other things. So yeah, it was just nothing really traditional by any means. But yeah, that's kind of how it got.
And how did Sports Biz Group, come into existence? Let's touch on that story for a moment.
Yeah. So, it actually started like right when I moved to New York. So like I put down Fan Plan and then moved up to New York, and then had a bunch of other business ideas kind of flowing around. So New York, I just wanted to like start clean and then just, start a new company. But like Sports Biz Group, it all started with like the premise that sports is like highly competitive, where you see on the field, people running into each other, very competitive teams trying to beat each other teams. How can we make that more collaborative, where it's like keep that intensity, keep that competitiveness, but on the front office and other aspects, how do we create collaboration? So it started as an online community that we built, help people place in jobs, find business partners, close deals, source news, opportunities, jobs, things like that. So it's just kind of organically grown, built a good network from that. And then more recently, we've kind of we've put it on events. We're getting closer relationships with athletes and producing a lot of content, coming out with a podcast. So it's more of a creative agency rather than just an online community.
And where have you identified the white space, right? Like, listen, there's lots of sports marketing agencies out there, right? They're a dime a dozen. Everyone wants to be in sports. It's cool. It's relevant. It's interesting. But where have you identified, based on two things? One, the market, and two, your skill set and what really drives you? What is that white space that you found in this area?
Yeah, so right now, I think the biggest white space that we're really passionate about tackling is from the event side of things. You see all these conferences, big sports conferences, and I've been to all of them. I've been part of them. I know the organizers, and it's like good relationship, but they're extremely expensive. And then once you go there, they're a little bit boring. I would say they're just panels back to back to back. It's not very entertaining. It's solid networking, which is why I go there, but from a standpoint of it's not consistent, it's expensive, and there isn't really effective with your money when you're actually paying to be an attendee. So that's kind of like a big problem that we're tackling. Where these events that we're going to be doing in 2020, they're going to be invite only, they're going to be free, they're going to be very entertaining, and they're going to cover different topics that aren't really being touched in depth, like esports, women in sports, sports tech, fashion in sports. So
you're getting kind of niche, but you're going to go an inch wide, mile deep on those.
Exactly. Yeah. So from the standpoint, that's how we're looking to disrupt it, where make it invite only. So we're curating the people that we think are best to be in that room. And then from another side of things, from the athlete perspective, where you see a lot of NFL, NBA athletes go bankrupt, right when they retire. So that's kind of like another big pressing issue that I think a lot of people are trying to solve. But through these events, we're trying to create a platform for athletes to network, content opportunities, sports marketing opportunities,
business opportunities for them.
Paid, business opportunities. So it's kind of a few different areas where it's like from the event standpoint, the consistency, the quality, and the entertainment that we're going to actually be bringing to these events, where they're not just going to be a panel. It's going to be more of a party, but also educational at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exciting too. And that I can only assume gets your juices flowing, man. Right? When you could think about how to change up. I mean, listen, like you, I've been to a ton of these events. And some of them, you literally just sit there and you're watching people on stage, PowerPoints, and that's not how you do it, right? You have to be engaging, you have to be entertaining, and you have to add value, right? So let's talk about the word influence, right? Like, how do you really, your approach to leveraging influence in sports marketing?
Yeah. So kind of our approach, different aspects from my level of influence, mainly through LinkedIn, trying to push that content, connection, drive collaboration. But for that kind of tagline that you mentioned, through these events, right, the speakers, the quality of people in the room, they're all going to be influential, whether it's on social media or they're kind of like old school and have those connections. How do we come up with very creative ideas where, say we partner up with this shoe company and we're going to release this limited edition shoe at the esports event and then hopefully all the other events. So how do we leverage the influence of these esports, thought leaders or athletes to drive awareness to this shoe and then to drive awareness to other causes like philanthropy and raise money on that side of things. So, it's leveraging the influence of the people in the room through content, through connection, and then kind of compound that where it's obviously an in-person experience, but then let other people experience that couldn't make the event or around the world. So
that's awesome, man. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about LinkedIn, something that you leverage really well. You're on it, you're engaging. Where have you found success in building, your personal brand, your business brand on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's content. Like LinkedIn, it's kind of really shifting where most people, I mean, it well, where you post a lot of content. A lot of people don't get that and don't post content. So it's not necessarily just a resume, platform. It's a platform to connect content. And I've used it really well for social selling. So I'll put out content and I'm not even asking for anything. I'm not trying to cold hard sell anything. It's more just like straight up value and attract people to engage, view my profile, whatever it is. And that makes that a warmer conversation for me to reach out to them rather than just me selling something crazy right off the bat when I don't know them. Try to express personality through content. I do live streams. I just posted something yesterday or 2 days ago that was like the best content I've ever posted. It has about like 70,000 views. So
awesome, man.
The reach is just insane from an organic perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Just doing things the right way. And another thing that I really admire about what you do is building audience and community. You do a really good job of that. And you and I had some offline conversations. What are some of those fundamentals to really building a true engaged community?
Yeah, it's I think the community mindset is like, how do you help the next person? So right, it's kind of difficult to shift that mindset where it's like you're just giving and you might not actually get anything in return, or maybe you will, and it's 5 years down the road. It's like kind of a difficult muscle to build. But shifting the mindset of how can I help them, not expect anything in return, and then most times with that mindset, you're going to get more in return and bigger and maybe even faster than you anticipated. So, it's just like creating great value and connecting people. So I've just found that my good skill set is talking to somebody, really quickly understanding either their tone or their current situation, and then immediately connecting with somebody, even on the spot or somebody in my network. So
yeah, man, you have that, man. We're one of the things that we have in common, and I think that's why you and I hit it off immediately, is that we're both power connectors, right? And it doesn't mean an immediate gain for either of us. Like, I love it when I could connect two people and they make some magic on their own. I know that the karma is going to come back to me tenfold. And I feel like you kind of have that same mentality, right?
Yeah. And it is tough because a lot of times, like, you can get in situations and you see, people making, big moves, and sometimes you feel like you're getting left out. But, if you're connecting with good people and then you're connecting those good people with other good people, then it will come back. It's just, you can't expect anything like immediately,
Yeah, no, that's a good one, man. Networking, right? Like something that you really, really pride yourself on, something that you do well. What are people doing wrong in networking, or what's kind of a misconception about how you're supposed to network? Like, one of the things I see out there on LinkedIn is like, there's certain people that
sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry about
there's
the
people
phone.
that preach, you got to connect with every single person, everyone, you got to connect, open network, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, pause on that for a second, right? And I truly think that you have to be intentional and be strategic about who you're networking with, because your time is finite. Listen, I'm a recruiter, right? And you know how it is. You did recruiting too. Like, we're connectors, but you can't be there for everybody. You can't have, engaging conversations with every single person. So what's kind of your approach with networking?
Yeah, I think it's kind of evolved. Where like when I moved to New York, it was kind of a different approach where it was more like shotgun, trying to network with as many people as possible, kind of see what's out there. So it kind of takes time, but networking from a standpoint of, I'd rather go to an event. I found that to be most effective rather than like networking one-on-one. You can do that, but like it's just got to be more strategic with who you pick and choose. So I mean, for me right now, I'm more laser focused on networking with athletes, people in the sports industry that are at a certain level of motivation, brands. So it's like just the people I'm trying to be more focused on, who and intentional who I talk to and who I network and spend my time with is kind of evolved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's super smart too. So let's bring it home here. I want to talk about some personal stuff here. Who are your sports teams? Let's do, when everyone asks, like, who are your teams in baseball?
The Orioles, they suck, but baseball. I've kind of it's actually interesting with sports is where it's like I'm a fan of the business of sports. So you have to kind of like separate yourself where it's like,
totally.
It doesn't matter what team is doing well. Like I'm the biggest fan of the Ravens, right? And that's going to be a little bit different, but say if the Steelers or the Patriots, they win the Super Bowl, I still have to be there and be ready to like capitalize. So, so it's not necessarily like, the Ravens or my favorite team. I like the Orioles. I'm a big fan of just the NBA as a whole, but it's more of a
Baltimore guy.
Fan. Yeah, Baltimore. So, it's more of a fan of the business.
Who's your basketball team?
Yeah, I don't really have a basketball team. More just like I like the Nets, I guess. But it's more of like a fan of just actual basketball. That's probably more the most up and coming. I think highest potential sport is basketball right now. So it's more. I don't really have a strong connection to a team. It's more like how the business is doing.
I like the way the Nets are branding, man. Ever since they came to Brooklyn, they're doing it. What's your take on the Brooklyn Nets branding?
I like it a lot. I was actually just at a game to go when they played the Hornets. It's a great atmosphere. They've got some new additions to their team that just brings a lot of heightened awareness. So they've been leveraging that through different like jersey activations or just in-game entertainment. But they also got a new court. So they're doing a lot of the right things and upgrading their systems, their stadium. But yeah, I think it's a great program, and they're going to be, competing at a high level, this year. And then
it's fun to watch and building that community in Brooklyn. So let's bring it home here, man. What does the word authentic mean to you?
Yeah, it's just being real. I think authenticity, right? You have to like genuinely care about other people and connect with them. And it's pretty easy. People are really smart nowadays and can kind of see through the bullshit of if people aren't being authentic. So it's from a different levels where it's like, if it's an athlete endorsing a brand, it's got to be authentic. They really got to like the brand and use it personally. So it's from different angles, but yeah, just authentically caring about people, and people can really sense that, I think.
Yeah, I love it, man. Nick, 2020 is around the corner. I can't even believe we're saying that, right? The new decade upon us. What's in store for Nick Hayden and company in 2020?
Yeah, I think 2020 is going to be like a breakout year, really for us, where a lot of the work we've been doing this past year, the following years have been like not necessarily rewarding, from different levels, but like we're bringing all the chips aligned. We're taking our, the hits that we needed to take, and then we're kind of just like realigning. And I think 2020 is going to be huge from various aspects of event side of things. We're going to be just the cadence of events and the quality of it. It's just going to be really consistent. And then the content that we're creating at the events, it's going to be second to none. And the content from our podcast that we're going to be relaunching in 2020. So events, content, working closely with more athletes, kind of just building this agency, getting a lot more case studies, doing a lot more client work. So I'm really excited. I think 2020
is stuff, man. Yeah, man. And listen, I mean, you're still relatively young. Like, you have an amazing future ahead of you. But so far, right? If you're going to put your pin in one major accomplishment, what's your greatest professional accomplishment so far? What do you hang your hat on?
Yeah, I think it's just work ethic of, some of these, there's like the past probably 2 years, some really crazy business situations I've got myself into, not necessarily myself, but just kind of got sucked into some crazy situations that, doesn't matter, just being able to just like figure it out. And the work ethic of just being able to figure it out, I think is huge. So, awesome. There isn't, I haven't really, gotten a huge accolades. I think that could potentially come. I'm not necessarily focused on that, but it's more just like the work ethic of like always, doing multiple like full-time jobs or trying to start a company and trying to like make it happen. But yeah, I think work ethic.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And Nick, you're learning, you're growing, but you're also evolving, and it's incredible to watch, right? What is your superpower? What do you do better than almost anyone on this planet?
Yeah, networking. And it's deeper than just like, going out and shaking hands, but it's more like, being able to see and talk to somebody, either like I've never spoken to them, and be able to build up a conversation like we've known each other for years, and then take that rapport, take that information and connect them or network with the right people. But It's just, quickly going to somebody or understanding who they are, what they're looking to do, and then finding the right way to help them and go along with the ride. So
unlike me asking Walt Clyde Frazier why all the pictures in his restaurant are not him in basketball uniforms, but in his Pimp Daddy. I don't think he loved that question, but no one's ever asked him that. And Nick, last but not least, right? Like, listen, what you do is hard, man, and you're building, and there's stressful situations, and not every day is awesome. And then there's other days when you're like, damn, I just put on this event. I just connected these people. I have this business opportunity. So when you're down in the dumps, and at the same time, when you look to gratitude, what pulls you up? What is your North Star?
Yeah, I think that just everything you're doing, whatever you're going through, it's always not as bad as you think it is. And it's more just like being grateful, where it's like, we're in the best country in the world, the best opportunities are in front of us. So, there's some times where it's like, it's all perspective. So you just have to be able to like, whether you get really low or you get really high, just have like a consistent level that you maintain, where it's like, even when you're low, you're not too low, but then even when you're high, you're kind of humbled. So, it's just getting perspective, understanding that like we're in the best country to do the best things that we can from an entrepreneurship standpoint. There's a lot of bad things going on. There's a lot of good things, but it's like the perspective and opportunities that we have, like, you just have to take advantage of that and be grateful. So.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Nick Hayden, thanks for coming on the podcast, dude.
Thank you. Podcast. I love it.
It is the podcast. And in closing thoughts here, I've reached this age where I meet people younger than me and I see something in them that I had back then and I am immediately drawn to them. And Nick is one of them. And he has such incredible drive and tenacity that's contagious. He's laser focused, but still humble and reserved at the same time. And I'm sure he makes his fair share of mistakes, but he's doing things the right way. Networking, aligning with the right people, and taking chances with the ultimate goal to build the company that he dreams about. And I appreciate our friendship, and I thank him for actually teaching me a thing or two along the way. And I hope that I can return the favor. And I look forward to building our relationship and our synergy. And I appreciate you coming on the show. And I appreciate you, Nick Hayden. Where can folks connect with you, man? Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn is great. Just Nick Hayden. Connect with me there. Instagram, Nick P. Hayden. That's kind of it. Or if you want to send me an email at nickphayden at gmail.com. So yeah, I'd love to connect. Appreciate you having me on. Had some great powerhouse guests previously, so I'm humbled to be here. But thanks for this.
Awesome. Good stuff, Nick. Thanks again. And to everyone listening, thank you again for joining us on the podcast. Please follow us on all the social media channels. You know where to find us. Click, link, subscribe, share, tell everybody. We appreciate it. Remember, take your online, offline, and thank you for joining us, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody.
Wisdom is forever, but for us, it's time to go. Thank you for joining us. Luckily, we'll be back with our next episode jam-packed with more incredible humans. For more info, please visit www.nhptalentgroup.com.